324 North Cliff Avenue. Is there anyone from the staff, the commission, or the audience wish to be heard on this item? Commissioners?
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
I have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda item number 1 and number 2. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
All right, on the city side, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. All right, motion carries.
Okay, since item number 2 has been approved, you are free to go on that item. We'll move on to the regular agenda. Item number 3, conditional use permit 25-27 to allow a short-term rental on the property legally described as Track 2A, Nelson's Tracks, Northwest Quarter, Southwest Quarter, Section 23, Township 102 North, Range 49 West. That's also in Mapleton Township. Petitioner and property owner is Mark Scatson, located at 25952 476th Avenue. Kevin.
Good evening. I am Kevin Hookman with the County Planning Department. This application is an application to operate a short-term rental on the property described. Short-term rental is allowed with minimum requirements are met and a conditional use permit is approved. The property is located at 25952 476th Avenue, which is approximately a half-mile north of East 72nd Street. It is located in the northwest corner of a residential subdivision. The petitioner has submitted a narrative and a site plan to support the application. The site plan shows the general layout of the property with parking up to 6 vehicles. And a narrative further describes 30 feet of shelter belt on the property on the east side. The house has 5 bedrooms, but only 3 bedrooms will be available for rental. And the narrative also describes that a rental management company will be used to manage the property. The conditional use permit criteria to evaluate all conditional use permit applications. I'll go through those here quick. Number 1, the effective use of the property or use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for uses that already permitted upon the property values in the immediate vicinity. This property is located in a subdivision of rural houses, as I noted. There's approximately 80 acres in size and 35 houses in the subdivision. Short-term rentals can be compatible in residential sites, but this neighborhood has had experiences with and found them to be incompatible in past requests. A short-term rental has the greatest potential impact on its adjacent neighbors. The property has neighbors just to the east and to the south. Agricultural land is located in the north and the west. The property has access on the County Highway 125 with minimal connectivity into the interior subdivision of the subdivision. The limited connectivity will reduce likelihood of guests wandering off into the subdivision. The petitioner has a self-imposed limitation of rooms for rent. As I noted before, they will be reducing from 5 bedrooms to 3. The zoning ordinance allows a maximum occupancy of 3 guests for every bedroom. The lower volume of guests also will limit potential nuisances and parties on the property. The short-term rentals such as this request, as I noted before, are required to get a conditional use permit. If a conditional use permit is approved and a neighbor finds concern over any conditions and conditions are not followed, the permit can be recalled. Number 2, the effect of the normal and orderly development and improvements surrounding vacant properties for uses predominant in the area. This neighborhood, as I noted before, has been found incompatible with surrounding development acreages in the past. However, this neighborhood is also fully developed with single-family dwellings or very close to it. However, this is the area around to the north and the west will not likely develop for some time until the city annexes it. In addition, the neighborhood is experiencing change overall, especially the quarter section to the land of the south of the subdivision, which was recently annexed into the city of Sioux Falls. This area is planned for various residential uses, including some live-work areas as well. Roads and traffic patterns will be changing due to development. The short-term rental may not be suited for the requested land. However, with the area developed, development will experience change in the near future and may be more accommodating for such a use. The 2023-24 traffic count for this street that's in front of the house has approximately 2,300 to 2,800 cars per day. With the development in the area, there will likely become increasing pressure for these properties right next to the road to become commercialized or adapt other uses for the property for the more visibility. Number 3, or criteria 3, the utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities are provided. The property does have existing driveway access onto the highway. Water and sewage, the property has a septic system on site. Septic systems are lists of potential water usage of 80 to 100 gallons per day per person. If the lower rate for the is used, which would be maybe consider a lower rate as a, let's see, I think it's like a boarding house. I think it's rooming house. That's the term for the state gives. Would allow for 50 gallons per person per day. Based on the size of the septic system at 440 gallon design rate, this could support 9 people. Number 4, criteria 4, the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. This property is large enough to accommodate parking, 1 parking space per bedroom easily enough. Criteria 5, the measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting inclusive of lighted signs so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. People on vacation often will have different expectations for how to use a property than full-time residents. Parties, loud noises, and disruptive behavior can conflict with full-time neighbors. The Minnehaha County does not have a noise ordinance, so if this was to be considered to be approved, limiting quantity of guests in the house to 9 people and limit the potential, could limit the potential for large parties, as well as you could consider quiet hours for the house. The house is located in the middle of the property. For the neighboring properties, has a large house with many trees. The property to the south has a privacy fence and a hedgerow planted with lilacs for screening. On the east side, you can see there's lots of trees that are and a chain link fence toward the east property line. The property does have a hot tub on the north side of the house, and that hot tub has a privacy fence. This request does not include provisions for campers or recreational vehicles either. Criteria 6, health, safety, and general welfare of the public and comprehensive plan. This does have the potential to affect neighboring properties. And the short-term rental has, in the past, has caused nuisance issues in the past, but they have been approved in other neighborhoods with minimal or no disturbance. There are changes happening in the area with recently annexed property to the south, and staff will not be making a recommendation because of the mixed possibilities of neighborhood history and the changes to the area land uses. If approved, conditions should be considered to design to reduce potential conflict between neighbors and should be placed in the permit. And also, conditions should be considered for additional safety to the people who stay in the short-term rental. And I will jump to the recommendation from there. The staff puts forward no recommendation on the permit, and then I will show you a few pictures of the site. So this is looking at the house from the driveway and kind of towards the parking area of the driveway there. This is looking at the side yard on the south of the property, and I am looking east. You can see the edge of the privacy fence on the right there. And then this is a further look at the privacy fence and hedgerow starting there. This would be the backyard. You can kind of see the small backyard with lots of trees further to the east. And this is what it would look like through those trees. There is a chain link fence in the back of that property line. And then there's a photo of the hot tub with the privacy fence. That's all I have, so I'll bring it back to the overall view. And I am here for any questions.
Any questions for him?
Madam Chair,
Joe?
I can kick us off with, we have approved some of these in the past, and we've had a standard list of conditions without a recommendation here and a list of possible conditions. Is that something you'd be able to provide if we start heading in that direction? Okay.
Yes, I
It'd
do
be
have
nice.
example conditions if you're heading towards a recommendation for approval.
Okay, let's hold those to the side for now, just making sure we have something to work off of.
Okay, anyone else?
Madam Chair, I have a
John?
couple of items for Kevin. Thanks for your report. I wanted you to comment a little more on what you referred to in terms of the determination of this particular application applying to the joint zoning ordinance Article 1, where it says regulations are intended to preserve and protect against existing property uses and values against adverse and unharmonious adjacent uses. Could you comment a little more on that? You referred to it in your report as a way to consider this, and I'd like to get your comments further about that.
That, as in, I guess that the property is in a situation where there are limited neighbors. It is a large property that has a little bit more of a unique situation with nobody on the west, nobody on the north. The existing fencing, trees, and other improvements give it a little more privacy from the adjacent neighbors. The other parts that I pointed out in that section was like the lack of connectivity. If you look at a larger part of the subdivision, this road goes down and there's another road that enters into the subdivision. But walking or biking out here, there's a lot of traffic, and it would probably not likely happen with the amount of it is just not very connected into the rest of the development. I guess, does that kind of help?
Yes. Could you also comment on what you referred to with regards to whether there was a difference in the activities of a short-term rental and a single-family home?
Okay, so where I commented on that there is oftentimes an expectation that people who are in short-term rental may not use the property the same way, and because they're using it for a short term. So that might bring about parties. Typically, if there is such an event, it might be also a weekend or a smaller type event. And that's where limiting to 9 people will aid to that, or less people if needed. We have a Airbnb in the county that is limited to 2 people per bedroom to, again, limit that amount of potential for disturbance of the neighbors.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anyone else?
I've got another
Joe?
one. Is this applicant's first application at this effort of a conditional use permit?
Yes.
And how much does it factor into your analysis that led to no recommendation that there has been prior applications in this neighborhood and they led to complaints and whatnot? I guess how much, if this was a case of first impression, that this was the first ever application in this neighborhood, how would the staff look to this versus with its history? Is that the crux of the issue?
Typically speaking, in most subdivisions, if it's the first one in that area, we can usually make accommodations through the conditions that would make it compatible for the neighborhood. But since this area has had the history of where these have been shown to be incompatible with the neighborhood, that's where the no recommendation has been made.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Anyone else? Guess not at this time. Is the petitioner here? Yes. Will you please step forward and state your name and address?
Mark Skadson, 25952 476th Avenue.
Any questions for him?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
you're limiting it to 3-bedroom. What's the plans with the other 2 bedrooms?
They're in the basement. We would use those probably for storage.
Okay, so if we limit it to 9 people, we're not taking that out of the equation for you. So
No,
it's not going to any other people.
No,
Okay.
no. And we would have locks on the doors.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Jim.
could you just give us some more context? Is this your current residence, or what are your plans and what made you interested in
Yeah.
turning this into a short-term rental?
Our family's gone, and it's a large house, so I'm close to retirement age, so we're looking at other income sources. And we think it's a fun house. There's a game room. I think there's a lot of amenities that would be sought after as a vacation rental. But we also want to protect our home, and so my wife and I decided that we would go through SODAC for a management company.
And Madam Chair, if I can continue, what's your assessment of the privacy in the neighborhood and those immediate adjacent properties to you?
I think we're quite secluded. I mean, obviously, Dave to the south and Sydney are the most visible, and the closest. There's the thick shelter belt behind us. So, but again, there's nothing, and like was already stated, there's nothing to the north and west.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone from the audience wishes to address this item? Please step forward and state your name and address.
My name is David Washburn, and this is my wife Cindy, and we live right on the south side of this.
25956.
25956, next door to this proposed.
So the concerns that we have would be the noise that maybe would come from parties or whatever, late night activity, loud activity and music, more cars, maybe illegal parking, increased turnover of people coming and going, the potential for unwanted behavior, and our property value is the concerns that we have.
Yeah. And when you have these type of rentals, people come from all over, and you do not know where they come from or what they're like. And they are not managing it themselves. They want to have a property management company do it. So we have some concerns.
The other thing is you can limit it to so many people per bedroom, but that doesn't mean there's only going to be that many people in the house at any given time. So I guess that's all we have.
That's what we have. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please step forward, state your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
Thanks. I'll keep it short, I promise, Bonnie. Albert Heising, 48067 Sun Meadow Court in Sioux Falls. Dave, what's your name? Yes. Yeah. Dave said, I am going to be the property manager of this place. Sodex Stays is a local Sioux Falls company. We manage about 20 properties and been up here before. So instead of 2,000 stays, we've had about 3,500 stays over the past 2 years since we've been kind of going back and forth with some of this stuff with the city and the county. We haven't had any noise issues since from 2,000 to 3,500 stays in these 2 years. So hopefully that can kind of calm nerves down about noise or anything. We also implement cleaners, inspectors, so there's more eyes than just me, myself. And then we also have like decibel noise systems and, you know, potential properties that could be, you know, we have one that has like a hot tub and a sauna and a workout station. That one has a decibel noise system in it. If anyone breaks these rules, they're out right away. These are transient guests. They don't have property rights. So that would make me like go out there instead of like the sheriff being called by the neighbors. I'm always on top of that thing. The last thing I want to say is, since I have been here the past 2 years, I think Pat Starr and Mayor Paul said it best when he said, we have development coming in with the golf courses going up, with, you know, that work and residential use going up. And with Sioux Falls expanding over there, if someone is to come in, you know, and try to apply for one of these CUPs, like they both said, like, we're not just going to deny them because, you know, the neighbors are like, well, I bought this place and I want it to be quiet. Like, this city is expanding and we need to have economic growth and business development happen. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. But hopefully that kind of puts in perspective that this property will be managed and have eyes on it at all times. Thank you.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Hi, sorry, I missed your name. I know you're with Sodak.
Albert Heising.
Albert, okay.
And then my wife is Kayla.
Okay. My question is there, do you have cameras or anything outside that monitors outside activity or monitors the number of people that are entering and exiting the place?
So we do ask, I actually have the property management agreement here, but on Exhibit B, it says like essentials to probably have. And we go through those, and one is like a Ring doorbell camera so that we can see who's entering and who's coming in. We like to follow all of the like state recommendations. So the state requires, you know, the state health permit. We go through that process. All 20 of ours are approved with the state, and the city likes that. So we'll be doing the same process with that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Anyone else from the audience care to address this item? Please state your name and address.
Ryan Bechtold, 47610 Slip Up Creek Road, so south and east of him a little bit. Sorry. Couple things real quick. We talked about the privacy fence and the trees. The trees are dying. Some of the Scotch pines are dying. You can see one of the pictures of trees dying right now. There are more dying as we speak. Are we going to replace those trees? The privacy fence is for the neighbor's pool. That has nothing to do with this property. So it's protecting their pool that is required to have a pool in their backyard. Talking about people getting confused or lost. I live up Sorrel, so half block to the south of this is Sorrel Avenue going up the hill. People come up there all the time looking for the Veterans Cemetery, looking for the other side of Sorrel that does not connect with this area. So getting confused, it's going to happen. People are going to get confused. The big issues we have are the noise complaints. The property management company just spoke. I appreciate the noise decibel if that could be implied or required, so we don't have to call the sheriff and waste the sheriff's time. I think that would be a positive thing to have on a property like this or any of these rental properties. Yes, I know the area is developing just to the south of me. That whole area got annexed into the city, and Van Buskert, I know I say that name wrong all the time, is getting ready to develop it. They're hoping to start 10 houses this fall, but that's also 10 to 15 years down the road where those other 175 houses come into play. So yes, we're coming into the city, but we're still outside the city at this time. 10, 15 years, it might be a different topic. Thank you.
Anyone else care to address this item? You can step forward. I'll allow it.
So this question is to Sodak. A Ring camera will not tell you everybody that's on the property. It'll tell you who comes to the door, but not everybody that's on the property. And the other thing is if there is a problem, how do we get a hold of you, or do you just see that there's a problem, or?
So the city.
Sir, is that your questions?
Yes.
Then you can sit down and he can come to the podium and address them.
Thank you for your question. So the city actually requires us to have a posting of our number on the door and also on our site. So you can find all of our information on our site. So it should be ample enough, but if it makes you guys comfortable, like we can give you that contact information, my direct line, as I usually go out for any emergencies because I don't like anything happening with these properties anyways.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, anyone else care to address this item? Step forward.
For addressing the trees, if you look at the photo, the trees, the lighter colored trees to the north of the house are Scots pine. They are dying. All the trees to the east of the house are ponderosa pine. There's no concern with those at this time. So they're all healthy, mature trees. Okay. As far as information, I'd be happy to provide Albert information to anyone in the neighborhood as far as for contact information.
Okay, anyone else before I close the floor? State your name and address.
Kurt Johnson, 25971 Jane Avenue. His property would be just to the east or to the west of mine. And I don't want to be a burden to you. I mean, you sound like a nice man. But I moved out there because it was quiet. You know, that's what, it was out of town, no noise. All my friends come out, they're like, wow, it's quiet out here. I go, yeah, it's nice. And the fence is not really, there's no fence there on your east side. Right. Right. So, I mean, I run my windows open all the time in the fall and the spring. I don't want to listen to partying and smoking, fires, whatever, you know. I'm not trying to be rude, just it's where I live. And I moved there because of the peace and quiet. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else before I close the floor? State your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Bechtold, and I live at 47604 Sorrel Street. My home faces, the front of my home faces 476, or the north-south road that his home is on. I'm 2 doors south of him. I concur with Kurt in that I live in the country. We have for 20 years. I want quiet. I know I live in the country. The farm world is not the same thing as the party world. And the idea that we have strangers in our neighborhood meandering or walking and people walking on the highway, it's so different than what we are used to, and that kind of thing is a concern of mine. That we have a traffic issue as it is on that road. It's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit from just north of his property to 72nd Street South. And I can attest by camera, if you'd like, 35 miles an hour would be an unusual speed for anyone to actually be going. It's closer to 60 every car. We have trucks that go to the dump-off wood site that's north of there, and even the trucks are not responsible to, what's going on. I question when he says that the city, they have to post on the city. Well, this is not in the city. This is a county residence, not a city residence. Not that you don't make every effort to do everything you can. I would like to hope that. But the noise is something that definitely concerns me, and the constant change of people. You don't know who anyone is and where they belong. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the floor. Commissioners? Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Becky?
when does this potentially get annexed into the city? Is there a potential timeline? Or did you say it and I missed it? Was it in the report?
So the city of Sioux Falls would need to receive an application to request that this neighborhood be annexed into the city of Sioux Falls. The planning office doesn't pursue annexations.
Okay. Thank you.
I can get
Joe?
conversation started on, we see some familiar faces in the audience, so I think we have some history with this neighborhood, and we're learning more and more about the neighborhood. It has some distinct features, and I think that's, Kevin gave us some history there of some prior complaints with this issue, so it's definitely some of the neighbors have brought consistent feedback of what they'd like their neighborhood to be. Granted, we do not have a per se ban on all short-term rentals. We put in place a short-term rental ordinance to regulate them and give us guidelines of what we could approve. And when I look at this property, this has some benefits going for it such that I have a hard time thinking that we would, it's getting closer to a per se ban on these in this neighborhood. If we don't approve this one, then I just looking at the neighborhood, this is one that actually does have barriers on a couple sides, no neighbors to the west, no neighbors to the north. So I guess I'm just kind of throwing out to my colleagues that if not this one, then I think we've probably set the precedent that this is not even possible in this neighborhood. That might be to some in the neighborhood's preference, but I also I would kind of like to hold this applicant harmless from prior bad conduct or a prior applicant in a different part going about it the wrong way. If this person's going about it the right way, has a property manager that's going to follow all the rules, has a track record, again, I guess I'm just showing my cards that I'm inclined to approve with some conditions, but if the sentiment is that we think that this neighborhood has de facto become a homeowners association that does not allow these things, then I think that's the precedent we're going down, and that will be something all the property owners will just have to know, that this is functionally not something allowed until the neighborhood would change in such a way that the character changes. And that's the only other thing why I'm inclined to potentially approve this is, do we try it out? Does the sky fall? Is this the worst thing ever that's happened to this neighborhood? Or is it, oh, yeah, a year later, we get another application and we have a track record and there were no noise complaints, and so do we ever cross that bridge? But I'm just feeling that this one is procedurally suited, that if we deny this one, that's a pretty big barrier, and that we wouldn't approve any in this neighborhood. So that's just kind of my macro thoughts on it.
Okay. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, if this was approved, maybe this is a question for staff, but we have the right to deny or shut this down if it does become a problem, or not, Scott?
Well, you can always recall a conditional use permit, but you need to have grounds to recall it. So if it wouldn't have to be violating a condition of approval or a standard written in the zoning ordinance.
Any other comments?
I guess, Madam Chair, if I may.
Mike?
Joe kind of said it right, or it's concisely in the sense that if not here, but where, and I hate to say that, everyone gets together and doesn't want something, so we can't, like you said, Joe, allow it to happen anywhere. But again, I do look at, like you said, this does have some unique conditions. It's not the exact same thing as some of the other applicants that have come before us, where you say it's in the center of the development. It does have some isolation. It does have some barriers. It does have a management company. So I feel like this truly is something that's done in good faith. And I would hate to penalize this applicant for maybe others that weren't in good faith. So.
Okay. Go ahead, Cindy.
I came a little late. I had graduation. Sorry. But I have read my packet, so I know what was in it. I guess I'm leaning a little bit towards Joe too. I don't want noise in my neighborhood. I live in the country too. I don't think anybody does. I'm getting new neighbors too, but I like my neighbors. I've also been a renter of Airbnbs, not frequently, but I'm a nice person. I don't have loud parties. I don't drink lots of beer. I do sit in the hot tub, but we don't have loud music. I mean, there are respectable people that will use them. There are people who I would not want there. And I would hope with the property management, they wouldn't want them either. And I would think since this is this gentleman's home, he does not want his home ruined. It'd make me a little nervous putting my house on the market for an Airbnb just because of the clientele you could possibly get. So I would hope with the property management it would be better. So I get where you're coming from. Having new neighbors is hard when you live in the country. I'm getting new neighbors. So I'd be inclined to do it. But it's obviously got to have tight regulation because if there's something going on and we're notified, it's going to get closed down. That would be the plan.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, I think maybe we're at a point where we need some further guidance from Kevin on what the list of conditions could be. Do we have a sample? Because I think we're already talking about potential recall efforts, and this is on a knife's edge that we need a pretty relatively strict set of conditions that if we're going to consider this.
All right, so here is a handful of conditions that are tailored to this property, but largely similar conditions that have been used on other properties for short-term rentals, including safety issues. The first one, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, sales tax from the state, requiring state lodging license, and then must follow the county ordinance, such as the parking requirements, the amount of people per bedroom. That kind of repeats some of these other things to be in reality. And then the number 5 does cater to the 5 bedrooms that requires only 3 to be allowed. As well as the unrented bedrooms be locked so they're unusable. Number 6, occupancy of 9 people. That can be changed. Any of these can be changed to accommodate or adjust. Number 7, guests shall have at least 5 dedicated off-street parking. There is space enough for that, so that shouldn't be an issue. Number 8, signing requirements must be met. So that would be any like sign that would be posted out by the road or even on the property to indicate that it's a Airbnb. Number 9, the property shall be required to maintain quiet hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And that's where decibel counts can become a possibility for quiet hours. No recreational vehicles, and then a common right to enter the property as the planning department with proper notice. So that's kind of where the common conditions have gone and just kind of tailored to this particular request.
Madam Chair. Kevin, you also have in the notes about to protect the, in order to protect the public, the petitioner should have a list of guests who are staying in the short-term rental, and the list must be maintained and available to law enforcement if needed. Does that need to be a condition, or is that in one of the articles of zoning already?
If I'm not mistaken, that is one of the, actually, I think that has been in other conditions. You're right. I think that can be added as a condition. I think that has been in other ones. I don't think that's part of the Article 15.18 though, but yes, that can definitely be added in there.
So, Madam Chairman, I have the zoning ordinance here. I thought this might come up. is a requirement that the contact information of the owner and the manager of the property, short-term rental, shall be provided to the planning department. Also, that information is to be posted on the property. So it is already a requirement of the zoning ordinance. But not provided to the law enforcement. That's not part of the zoning ordinance.
This just says provided if necessary, which I'm assuming if you had an issue, then is that how you work? Sorry, I'm asking you a question in a term. Okay. Does that need to be a part of the ordinance? I'm asking my colleagues. Because you've done at this level before. No.
My 2 cents would be that we wouldn't need to add that.
You would or you wouldn't?
We would not.
Okay.
I think it's kind of baked into the ordinance already.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for him?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Kevin, with the noise regulation on there, how would that be enforced? Does the county I thought I heard you say earlier the county doesn't have a noise ordinance, but if there are quiet hours, how do those two connect?
So with the quiet hours, that would be, as Scott mentioned, that if there is, there has to be a reason to recall the application. So if there are people out there and that's becoming an issue that people are partying until midnight or after 10 o'clock in this case, that would give us the ability to say, okay, we've gotten these complaints documented, we're going to recall it now because we sent you the warning that you need to stop that or enforce it better. And that would be able to recall and have this meeting again.
So to be clear, is that just complaint based? Is there any check on, I mean, does someone go out there with a decibel to ensure that the complaint is valid?
I be honest with you, the last time that this was implemented, it was based on complaints, and we have not received complaints. That being said, you heard the property management person talk about a decimal reader that could be sent outside, and that is a possibility that you could probably require a decimal reading. Typically in the county, the decimal readings are anything like, I think it's 60 decibels, but maybe at a nighttime, maybe you could even pare that down a little bit.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for him? Okay, commissioners?
I'll get the discussion going with a motion to approve with the 11 conditions as recommended by staff.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve conditional use permit 25-27. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
All right. On the city side, do I have a motion so we can have a discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the 11 stated conditions.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit 25-27 with the 11 conditions. Further discussion on that?
Madam Chair, I'm not voting in favor of the application. I don't think we really have understood who we're serving, and the issue of economic development. That could be a residence for a new permanent family moving to the community, just as well as what it's being used for. So I think those are examples. The one I lifted up earlier in terms of the determination factor, I think I'm reading this correctly. The regulations are intended to preserve and protect the existing property uses. You know, that says that, and we've not done that. The other thing is it changes neighborhood dynamics, and individual locations are affected, people's homes, and their desire to live there peacefully is able to be controlled to a certain extent, I understand, but who's going to go over when the party gets loud? I don't think we'd suggest sending a neighbor up to knock on the door And so I think it's just, right now, still fluid. Some of the references to future planning potentially affecting the neighborhood are still not all known, I don't think, or may have some information in them that could be helpful to looking into the future from a planning standpoint, which is what our name is, and it might be good to engage in something like that. So those are my reasons.
Other discussion?
Madam Chair, I'll be voting in favor. I'm on kind of the same train of thought as my fellow commissioners, that if this one isn't the one in this neighborhood, then we probably wouldn't. And with the buffer of the trees and the fencing, I'm in favor. I think that's enough to kind of separate from the rest of the neighborhood, and there's no sidewalks and no direct access to the rest of the neighborhood. So I'll be in favor of this one.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I would say, my sentiments are that the additional conditions are adequate. I think they're appropriate, and I'm much more in favor of it with the additional conditions. So I'll be voting in favor.
All right, hearing no further discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. Move on to item number 4, conditional use permit 25-30 to allow a short-term rental on the property legally described as Tract 3, Andes Acres, Northeast Quarter, Southwest Quarter, Section 23, Township 102 North, Range 49 West. That's in Mapleton Township also. Petitioner and property owner is Tyler Childress, located at 47644 Slip Up Creek Road. Scott?
Thank you. Scott Anderson, Planning Director. And this is a conditional use permit request that's before you, 2530, to allow a short-term rental on property that is located at 47644 Slip Up Creek Road. And just to give you some background information on this parcel and this property, the applicant is requesting that conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental. The existing residence has 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms and 2 kitchens that are spread out over 2 levels of house. The property is shown on the screen in front of you, and you'll notice that there's a driveway that leads up to a detached garage, and then there's also an attached garage. The applicant has provided some general information and narrative, which I have included for your review, and it explains their vision for the home and also includes a letter of support from a local clergy and some certificate from the City of Sioux Falls for a residential rental property training program that the applicant has completed, and that is included for your review. I did visit the property and I took some pictures on May 5th. As we've discussed, this Andes Acres area is a residential development that consists approximately of 35 residences. The Mapleton Golf Course is being constructed directly to the southeast of the subject property, and there is under construction now a clubhouse and guest housing, which are clearly visible from the applicant's property, and I'll show you in the slides. So some of the history of this. On January 23rd of 2023, the Joint Planning Commission denied a conditional use permit request to operate a bed and breakfast establishment, and the applicant did not appeal that decision and continued to use this property for short-term rental, which required the county to seek injunctive relief from the courts. And we sent letters to the applicant, and a trial was held on November 30th and December 12th of 2023. And on December 15th, the judge issued a preliminary injunction against the applicant Don't Ask Holdings, and then ultimately a final injunction was issued ordering them to stop using the property as a short-term rental. After that, the applicant applied for a conditional use permit 2401 on November 30th of 2023, which was the day that the ordinance amendment became effective, addressing vacation home rentals or short-term rentals. And that hearing was held on January 22nd of 2024, and it was denied. The applicant appealed that decision to the Joint Planning Commission's decision, and on February 27th of 2024, that appeal was heard by the elected officials of the Joint Minnehaha County Commission and Sioux Falls Council. And after due consideration, that conditional use permit number 2401 was denied. Now the applicant has reapplied after waiting the 6 months as required by the zoning ordinance. So that's all the background of this property. And now we'll get into the criteria that is required to be addressed and reviewed. So as you're aware, there are a number of criteria that we look at. Number one, we look at the enjoyment and the use of other properties in the area. And it is likely that this use will not impact the property values because the house is quite large, it's new, and the value exceeds most of the houses in that subdivision. So it's unlikely that the property values will be negatively impacted by this house. The proposed short-term rental use could have an effect on the use and the enjoyment of the property, of the immediate property in the immediate vicinity. During the time when we were doing code enforcement in 2023, the planning department received numerous complaints almost on a weekly basis. And the complaints ranged from noise and traffic, use of fireworks, party buses being unloaded after midnight, garbage on the site, traffic and lighting. The property owners, the neighboring property owners have had to call the Minnehaha County Sheriff to address noise, and these issues were reported regularly to the planning department. And that represents some of the complaints that was received when this was used as a short-term rental. So it could have an effect on the enjoyment of some of the surrounding property owners. The second criteria is what kind of effect could this use have on the normal and orderly development and the improvement of surrounding vacant properties for the uses of that area. This area is adjacent to the north side of the city limits. It's that everything on the south side of Slip Up Creek Road has recently been annexed into the city, and that land use map has been changed by the city to be called Live Work. And the subject property is part of Andy's Acres, and that property is on the north side of Slip Up Creek Road and not in the city limits, and so we need to differentiate that. But that area to the south side has been rezoned and is in I would say, a pattern of change. You have residential development that could be going in there. You could have some commercial development. Live implies that they could have limited office space. They could have multifamily units, dwelling units like apartments. They could have twin homes or townhomes. So, and furthermore, the Mapleton Golf Course is being developed, and they're also going to be having limited guest housing that is going to occur on that golf course. So there are changes that are occurring, and that pattern of use is changing in that neighborhood. The third item is how we address utilities, access roads, and drainage. And that has pretty much been taken care of. The property has direct access to Slip Up Creek Road, which is paved. It's now part of the county highway system. But what you may want to consider is what kind of impacts this kind of use will have on the septic system. And I have outlined the impact that potentially could occur on that property. The wastewater system is designed for 600 gallons of water usage a day. And as we've indicated, the average person uses between 50 and 100 gallons. And as you just heard in the previous item, a residential boarding house type use could be less, could be 50 gallons a day instead of 80 to 100. But the existing system is probably not built for housing a great number of people. So that's one thing that I would like you just to consider, keep in your back of your mind, how you may want to address that if you decide to move forward with this item. Item number 4 is we look at off-street parking. The zoning amendment for short-term rental that became effective on November 30th requires 1 parking space per bedroom. The applicant has indicated there's 6 bedrooms, so they would need to have 6 off-street parking spaces. There are 5 garage spaces and the driveway, so it will accommodate 6 off-street parking spaces. Number 5, that measures could be taken to control offensive noise, odors, fumes, dust, and vibrations, so that none of them will become a nuisance. As noted, and I think it's important to remember that the conditions for this area are changing. There is a major resort being developed to the southeast. And furthermore, there are plans for the Mapleton Heights, which is going to be a residential development that's going to be occurring on the south side of Slip Up Creek Road. And all of these land uses are going to change the dynamics of that area. And staff is neutral on whether a short-term rental is appropriate, is an appropriate land use on the subject property, and I will be making a no recommendation to approve or deny this request. The Planning Commission could attempt to limit public potential nuisances with things like limiting the number of people that stay at the property, having quiet hours, fences, berms, landscaping. And I also wanted to note that in the past year, the applicant has now constructed a new house, and the property owner of this and the applicant now lives approximately 2,000 feet to the east along Slip Up Creek Road. And the owner's nearby location of his residence may help allow for better monitoring of that short-term rental. So that has changed in the past year, and I wanted to note that. Finally, number 6, we look at the health, safety, and general welfare of the public and how this meshes with the comprehensive plan. And the proposed use has a potential health issue with an under-designed wastewater system, and that's one of the items I wanted you to think about. The safety of the public could be at risk with guests arriving at the property late at night or early in the morning, or celebrating events and potentially impaired by alcohol. So that is one thing to consider. And then the comprehensive plan indicates that it should reflect the collective goals and values of the current residents and future generations. The land use in this area, however, are changing, and with these changes, the proposed uses of the area may change and may be more acceptable. So the Planning Commission, the Joint Planning Commission, may deny or approve a conditional use permit, and they may deny it when they feel it's not in harmony with the intent of the zoning ordinance. And that's what Commissioner Paulson had sort of indicated earlier for the last item, that it's a decision that you'll need to make as a Planning Commission on whether you feel that this use is in harmony with the purpose and the intent of the zoning ordinance, and whether the use of a short-term rental is harmonious with the adjacent land uses of the existing residential development of the area. The changing nature of the area, however, may make this a more congruent land use now. And these are all decisions that you'll need to make after hearing testimony from all sides, and you can make a decision. So I do have some slides for you, and I'll go through those. So this is overall the site. If you want to slide through those for me, the site plan. So I took these on the 5th of May. You can see this is the house, the driveway. You can see the garage in the back. This is looking to the west. The trees aren't really leafed out, but there are some trees in the front yard. This is looking directly to the east. This is the closest property. You can see there are a few trees, not a lot, but so this is looking from that site directly to the southeast, and I think this is important for you to consider. That's the New Mapleton Golf Course and the clubhouse and the lodging that's being constructed. This is looking straight south towards the city of Sioux Falls. This is in the backyard looking to the north. This is in the backyard looking to the northwest. This is a lighted basketball hoop. This is you can see the 3-car garage and the additional parking on the side of the house. This is looking, I believe, to the northeast. Also to the northeast. This is shows you the city. You can see Slip Up Creek Road. This is how the city is classifying some of their land use, future land use for this area. And we'll take it back to the site plan. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for him? Cindy?
Scott, how close is the neighbor behind them? I mean, obviously I can see the ones to the sides are close. How close is the neighbor to behind this house? It's not on the picture.
They'll be, I believe they're here. They probably could better address that. I would say maybe 100 to 150 feet away.
And then could you go back to that last slide you had of the city use and just show me where this house is at?
Yeah.
And give me a second to read what they've got on there.
So.
This has the star on it.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, the red star is where the subject property is. And if you go back one slide, you can see Slip Up Creek Road, and I believe the dark green on Slip Up Creek Road where it curves is the Veterans Cemetery, and they're probably 4 houses to the west of that, 4 or 5.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for him? Guess not at this time. Is the petitioner here? Will you please step forward and state your name and address?
Hello, Commissioners, Council. Tyler Childress, Minnehaha County. I want to first go over a couple things. I'm self-employed. I have a business degree in management and marketing from Morningside College in Sioux City. I'm a real estate professional. What that means is I own and actively run my rental house business. My wife and I had the idea of keeping our first house as a rental house when we moved out to our second house. I read a book in college one time that really paved the way to look at real estate. I became a landlord a decade ago and have been learning ever since. We own 14 dwellings, most of them being long-term rentals. We also have one in the city of Sioux Falls that is a short-term rental, and we're looking to add this one this evening. What has changed on this particular one is a couple things. One, the golf course. It's not just a small golf course. It's a area change that will change that area forever. 210 acres, development happening all over. Annexation of the contiguous property into the city of Sioux Falls for housing development. I was at that meeting. It was very interesting 72nd Street will kind of go east and go through there. There's a lot of road changes happening on top of the land use. Township maintain the road out front now. It's a joint effort between the county and the city. Maybe the most important thing, I now live 0.4 miles away from the property. So any concerns that you have, we actively own, operate, and manage this. We're just 0.4 miles away. In addition, I've become a certified landlord within the city of Sioux Falls and received a landlord license, as you should have in your packet. I've also gotten this property on Silver Creek inspected from the South Dakota Health Department, as you should also have in your packet. We are active in a group of short-term rental owners that share ideas and get better as a group. This property is currently leased out long-term, and just a few months ago, the county didn't have any ordinances on allowing long-term. So I'm looking to just offer short-term leasing under 30 days as an option. I'd like to switch gears for the county planning staff report to address the second paragraph of number 1. Prior to us owning the house, there was a pattern of a select few neighbor complaints even during construction. The prior owner who built the house received 20+ complaints from the planning department and the sheriff department. There's a pattern in the neighborhood prior to me buying this house. I even went as far as to go door to door, and a select few neighbors didn't want to talk or had negative things to say. I made an effort. I will say, other than a few select neighbors, many other neighbors have been very supportive of this. Dimitri Skinder, who lives 2 houses down, Gerald Lipitsky, Ryan Rexted, Paul Sanderson, Lucas and Savannah Mycamp, and Jay Major are all people who have showed support for this. We've also seen great support from the Mapleton Golf members and staff. I think one of the most important and new changes is, again, we live 2,000 feet away. My family and I literally 5 seconds away. To address the number 2 on the county, I think the map I provided shows the growth of the city of Sioux Falls. The parcel contiguous to us to the south is inside the city of Sioux Falls municipal limits. This is new and just annexed in. Inside city limits, you apply for a short-term rental permit, and it is granted after an inspection from the Department of Health. As you see in your packet, we already have the inspection complete. Number 3, to address the number 3 report. I have the reports of Minnehaha County rural water since 2019. And I can show those off if you want to see it or put up here. You can see that the highest use of water and septic is when it was under a single family multi-generational use prior to us. During long-term and short-term, the tenant and clients use less water. We've also had an expert from Postma Excavation who did our personal house. We have text messages that show proof who installed the septic, that the septic on this site can handle the water use no problem. We addressed the concern of number 6 with the data on water usage and expert opinion of Postma. Now for the city, for the staff report you've received. We currently have multiple long-term and 1 short-term rentals that follow each and every guideline from the city ordinance. We even have our South Dakota Department of Health license in hand. We are literally next door to the neighbors to the city of Sioux Falls. Our neighbors are annexing the city, and they're building a live-work. I think it's super important to go over live-work, what that means. The county does not have that classification inside there. Live-work can mean office buildings down below, can mean apartments up top, can mean townhouses. It's much, much closer to a commercial zoning than what we think. I think it's super important to discuss the changes in the area. A live-work zoning is a new style of zoning that I believe in less than 2 years in the city of Sioux Falls that allows for houses, apartments, moderate density, twin homes, townhomes, and quasi-commercial and residential mix. Having a short-term rental fits really well inside this live-work or even residential neighborhood. I would ask for your yes vote on today's conditional use permit. Thank you, guys.
Okay, is there someone from the audience that cares to address this item? Please step forward, state your name and address.
Ryan Bechtold, 476 Slip Up Creek Road. Welcome back. I'm going to be confusing here because I'm going to play both sides of the fence. I am one of the neighbors. I'm not too far away from this residence. I just want to bring up a couple points that are really confusing to me as the neighborhood, and things that you are saying and that we're hearing. One, you're saying that you don't want to approve something because you don't want to put up a roadblock for future uses, but you're not taking into account the fact that the neighborhood does not want it. You're doing what you want, putting it on us. Now, here's the weird part for you. With Tyler moving out there now and building his house right down the road, I know I'm going to get a lot of crap. I have 2 family members in here and a lot of neighbors that aren't going to like this, but I have less of a problem with this now that Tyler lives out there. If we call him, he said he'll be there, Johnny, on the spot. It's hard to take his word on that sometimes, just from some of the past experiences with him, but I feel him living out there with his 5 kids and his wife, that hopefully he will be supportive of us. And when we say, hey, we got noise problems, but I'm weird because I'm half a mile away from this house, so I'm not right next door. So I don't have much of a voice in this, in my opinion. I'm just saying how I feel as one of the neighborhood residents. I wouldn't call a high-end golf course a, sorry, I can't remember what Scott called it, a resort. It's not a resort, it's a high-end golf course. $50,000 and $7,500 a year is not a resort that most people can go to. It's gonna be high-end people, wealthy people are going to this golf course. The neighborhood across the road is being billed as an executive living area. I don't know if executive homes are gonna want short-term rental in that area also. That's why I'm weird, because I don't know, like you. I don't know whether I support it or not, but at this time I kind of support it, as long as there's tools to revoke the conditional use permit. Thank you.
Hi, Avery Del Grasso, 47647 Sorrel Street, to the directly northeast. I'll make this quick because I have a toddler I need to get back home to. But 2 factors I think that are most important to me in this matter are context and compliance. I think the history makes compliance very simple. Failure to comply with an injunction demonstrates generally a wanton disregard for the rules, let alone any conditions this body would impose on the property. Context, the actions and deliberate inactions of the applicant. Example, this is about 2 years now. Privacy fence has been talked about. Lighting abatement, sound abatement, any of that has been talked about ad nauseum with not much to speak for it. Garbage piles up, so that hasn't been addressed. But it suggests a methodical and deliberate disregard for the neighbors, and my wife and I are fearful and approval invites retributional actions, and we simply desire the freedom to enjoy our backyard with our toddler without fear of ownership or the renters. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Please state your name and address.
My name is Grant Levitt, 1605 3rd Avenue. I am not a neighbor. I'm here as a character reference. In regards to the petitioner, as you heard and witnessed, he treats this as a business. He's very prepared. This is not the first time he's attempted this, and he has, to the earlier points, done many things to try to prove and live out the changes that you all are requesting in order to process this or approve it. I've known Tyler for 20 years. I do believe he does what he says. He's a man of high integrity, as you referenced in your packet, a letter from his clergy. He's a business owner for the past 10 years in the community. He has built a home that raised the values of this neighborhood. It is the nicest house in the neighborhood, and he is 2,000 feet away. That is an investment in making sure that this is a successful endeavor, more than most applicants could say, and I think it's definitely worth warrant. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Kurt Johnson, 25971 Jane Avenue. They sit up here and constantly are telling us that we don't want change. We know change is coming. I mean, it's obvious. But like you say, a private golf course is not, I mean, it's not open to the public, it's private. We all went to that meeting. We were all happy to have it there because it means decency. I wasn't opposed to his barn when he wanted to put that up. You know, I figured it would be a nice addition to the area. You got a veteran cemetery there. But rentals, that's what it is. It's a rental. That changes things. It's a rental. That's what it is. And the houses that are getting, these lots across the street that are getting sold that they're talking about, yeah, I think the minimum is $100,000 for an acre lot with up to 1.3 million for a 3-acre lot. These people ain't gonna have commercial buildings sitting next to them. But how can you give one and not the other? We've started it now. They're rentals. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else? State your name and address.
Yes, so Daniel Huck, 6700 East 33rd. I'm just here as kind of a character reference for Tyler and the Childresses in general. So just to put the type of people that these are, like when we were going through some major issues, they are the first people to show up with a meal. Like this is that type of family. The other thing is that I totally get the rental thing, and most people are scared when it comes to Airbnbs and other rentals because they think that, oh my gosh, everyone's coming to party. But that's not everybody. Like Madam Cindy said over there that, you know, she goes to Airbnbs, and maybe some of you all do as well, but not everyone's there to party. Secondly, it's over $900 a night to stay at this Airbnb. So this is not your average rental of $200 for an Airbnb where someone's gonna come and college kids and party. These are probably gonna be people who are expecting to go golf at that golf course and so forth. It would be my assumption. I can only assume that. But that's it. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Gerald Lepovsky, 47638 Slip Up Creek. If you look at your picture, I'm in the greenhouse right on the left-hand side. The only thing I wanted to address was when Mr. Childress was speaking, he said that I am for this, and that's just simply not true. He stopped to see me. He gave me my letter telling about this meeting. We talked about it. I did not say I was for it. I did not say I was against it. So I don't appreciate him using me as a good reference because I did not say that. And the concern I have is 6 bedrooms, that's 18 people. You know, it's a residential area. How many residences have 18 people? So that's all I wanted to say.
Anyone else?
Scott Zwalk, 47646 Slip Up Creek Road. I'm the White House right next door. I'm the house that anything comes off that driveway comes right into my bedroom window. I'm the one that was woke up in the middle of the night when 18 guys were dropped off on a bus. I was the one that 3/4 of the way through the night, I finally had to call the sheriff to have him come out and shut the place down. Absolutely, as you can understand, I'm not happy. Why can he run a business in a residential area and not have to be there? That's not right. It's a residential area. So I'm just asking you all, please vote no for this. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? State your name and address.
My name is Tina Gunn. My address is 47640. I am right next door. I'm in the house with all those trees. Those are my trees. I pay a lot to trim. I just wanted to kind of talk about We keep hearing about what a good businessman is, but if you look at the Better Business Bureau and look up his other two businesses, there are several complaints about different things, and not one of them has a reply that they were satisfied with how he handled the issue. So if he can't find a satisfactory solution for other customers, how's he going to find a satisfactory? How's he going to be even satisfactory for a neighborhood? One of his cell phone business people, he actually sold a stolen phone. While looking through complaints, we already know we've had several complaints when he's tried this before. And he already has people booked in July, even though he doesn't have the thing yet. And he talks about he has trusted staff, but actually in one of his Better Business Bureau complaints is talking about his staff at the barn going through people's personal properties and not being trusted.
Ma'am, could you move over to the mic, please?
I am sorry, I'm short, okay. He states he'll do checks on people who sign the lease, but what about the other 17 guests? That's nice that he'll do a check on the one person. And the other thing is, it says in the intent letter, it's a single family rental or whatever he's gonna do. So that would be one family, right? That's what I want to verify. And then he's not a member of the Better Business Bureau, which I think is important if you run a business, and especially several businesses in this town. And the other thing is, he has never came to my door and talked to me. He says he's always come to all the neighbors, and he said this at the last meeting that he tried to talk to. He's never came to our door. I want to know how he'll guarantee there's no noise. I want to know about the checking of IDs and all those 17 other people. I want to know how he'll address the water issues. And he has been using it as a short-term rental, or long-term rental, I guess you would say, for the last 6 months. And I think the same tenant was there for 6 months, and other than some dog poo that wasn't picked up, we didn't have any issues with them doing that. And then, I'm sorry, I think this is a little tacky. We've had 2 spouses pass away in the last year in this neighborhood. And he went to both their houses and asked if they were going to sell. That's not the type of person I want running a business next door to me. I guess that's all I got to say.
Please state your name and address.
Tina Beck, 47645 Sorrel Street. We are the people that live directly to the north of the property. And our property does butt right up to it. First thing I want to do is play you a little clip of what we've dealt with. This is after 10 p.m. on a Thursday when he was renting it illegally in 2023. Okay. I want to say that he's been renting it long-term for over a year-ish. It's a great fit with the neighborhood. We've had 0 problems, no complaints. The tenants are respectful, they're quiet. And yes, I do have a picture of the thing showing, I don't know how to get this one working, that it is booked out for a weekend in July. Right there, do you see the 17th, 18th, 19th? So he operated it for almost a year without a permit. We had to go to court to get the injunction to stop him from illegally renting. How are you going to shut him down if he's gotten a permit? He didn't follow the laws before. What's going to change? He had no regard for the laws then. Yes, he will live 2,000 feet away, but his event barn is also 2,000 feet away. He drove by this house multiple times a day, going to the barn and back to his house, and not once saw the garbage that the guests left. I mean, I've got dates from April to July of the garbage. Every one of these is a different day. The garbage that was left for us to look at. I mean, I've got more pictures. But he drove by it multiple times a day. Not once did he stop and pick up the garbage that was sitting there. But he's going to take care of it, living 2,000 feet away? I doubt it. The effect upon the use and the enjoyment of other properties, it's very clear that it would affect the use and enjoyment of the properties nearby. We were affected before. I don't believe the way that it is operated will change this time. As you talk about the water usage, and he said it was down, but this is the people. I mean, the large groups of people that we have on any given weekend. 12, 16 people, all outside drinking, partying. Here's a picture we printed off on paper. It's not a real great one, but sitting between, you know, out on kind of by the road, so north of the back of that house. Measures to control noise, lighting, I can say without a doubt that nothing was done to control either of those. After a meeting, Tyler once asked what he could do. We suggested a fence, quiet guests, and changing his lighting. He's done none of those. This is a picture that I took right outside my bedroom window of the lights from his house. This is my house. The lights from his house shine onto my house. All of the lighting is in my yard. This is the lighting. You can't really tell, but how lit up his house is. And it stays that way. I mean, these pictures were at 11:30 at night. Shines right into my house. The health, safety, and welfare of the public. If this house is rented short-term again, we're not safe. He says he IDs everyone on the contract. What about the guests that show up that aren't on the lease? Does he make every single person staying there sign the contract? We dealt with a rude guest that showed up there, called the sheriff on him after he came at one of our neighbors. Turns out this guest had a long record with law enforcement. The sheriff came out looking for him, but the guest left before he got there. Person did turn around later that night and come spend the night. Would you feel safe? There's a high prevalence of alcohol use at this house by the guests. With alcohol comes extreme noise and disorderly people. We've seen it. We've heard it.
Ma'am, you will have to wrap it up. Your 5 minutes are up.
Okay. That's fine.
State your name and address, please.
John Beck, 47645 Sorrel Street. Our house is directly to the north. There's been a lot of conversation tonight about Tyler Childress being 0.4 miles or 2,000 feet away. I have to reiterate, he couldn't manage it when he was driving by there before, and I don't know how he can do it now. Last fall, I was out with my grandson in our golf cart, and we were driving down the grass road, Weidenbach, and then going towards the east. Tyler Childress spotted us driving down the public road, and he came back up around the backside of Weidenbach, and he shined his car lights, truck lights, on myself and my grandson, and we continued to drive away. Not 20 minutes later, the sheriff arrived at my door, and he issued me 2 trespassing notices. One saying that I trespassed at his new house that he was building, and one at his event barn. I don't know how I could have done that because I wasn't even 300 feet away from my property, not 2,000 feet away at his house. He also, I believe, accused me of breaking into his house under construction because of somebody driving a golf cart. And the accusation was that it was me. Well, it couldn't have been me because my golf cart was an hour's drive away in a car, or 40 miles away. So this is the type of person that we're really dealing with. He can't manage things himself. He calls a sheriff to issue trespassing notices when I didn't even go near his property. This is a property where his house is at, not this one that's looking for the conditional use. There's a lot of conversation about the development of the private golf course and the development of the houses going to the south. Again, we know changes are coming to that area, but most of the people around here live to the north of that in what I anticipate will continue to be a quiet area for us to live.
Sir, do you have any further comments, or are you done?
No, I was going to show some pictures. I haven't used up all my time yet, have I?
Not quite.
Okay. These are some pictures of cars from over a year ago when Tyler Childress was illegally operating as a short-term bed and breakfast. Again, every weekend there are different people out there partying it up. A short-term rental, less than 30 days, typically a weekend or 3 or 4 days, always leads to partying at this house. As mentioned before, this house is used as a long-term rental right now, and I think that could be a good fit for the neighborhood, but short-term rental, no way. Thank you for your time.
Okay, anyone else?
Dennis Kruger, I live northwest of his place. I'm the one that had confrontation with a guest. He wanted to duke it out, but I backed off and we found out he was the one that was wanted by the sheriff's department. So my concern is we don't know who's coming out there on weekends. He may know who is renting it, but other guests that come and go, we don't. We've got small children in the area now. They're not safe. I raised my girls out there and had no problems. Now I've had to put up cameras just to protect my property. That's all I gotta say.
Anyone else? State your name and address.
Hi, everyone. Nate DeYoung, 27882 473rd Avenue. I just want to be here tonight in support of Tyler, of his family, getting to know them here in recent years. I see how committed he is to taking care of other properties that he has and serving the people that are in those properties. And they also run another successful Airbnb in Sioux Falls and do a good job with that. And I think it's a key point of them being close, he's got a bunch of little kiddos, I got a bunch of little kiddos myself. They're a part of that neighborhood now. And I think that that really is kind of a key change in that dynamic, that they're going to want to uphold that because they live there, and that's their place. So just want to speak to them and in support of this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else before I close the floor?
Corey Gunn, 47640 Slip Up Creek Road, the house right next to him. One thing that really hasn't been brought up yet is he owns that wedding barn down the street, and I'm pretty sure his plan is to rent this house out to wedding parties. I don't know how many wedding parties are quiet after 10 o'clock at night after they finished. Most of them are drunk and ready to party more. So that's kind of all I want to say about that.
Okay, anyone else?
Thank you. I'll try to be loud and brief. My name is Jay Fisher. I live at 5901 South Sandra Circle, resident of Sioux Falls, lived here last 15 years, lived in rural small towns my whole life. I own and manage 10 long-term rentals in Sioux Falls. Just kind of listen to this process. Super disappointing to hear from both sides kind of how this has been handled, how this has been going, the relationship with the neighbors, and feel like we can do better here. Feel like there's a way to lay this out in a safe and reasonable way so he can have fair use of the property that he owns. I mean, this is America. This is South Dakota. We can figure this out in a way that's friendly to everyone involved. So appreciate your time and that you're being here, and that trust you have judgment to do the right thing here.
Please state your name and address.
Dwayne Wegman, 47634 Sorrel. And I think what it comes down to is apparently the long term is not an issue, it's the short term. And just as the gentleman said, this house as short term feeds off of that barn rental for weddings, and that's where the issue is. So if you eliminate the use of wedding parties or graduation parties, drunken whatever that takes place on a short-term basis, that would probably solve the problem. Or you could solve it by Tyler could just switch houses, move into the home in our neighborhood and rent the other one out, which is far enough away, it doesn't bother anybody. So I just hope that you turn this down as short-term. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close the floor. Commissioners?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may. I appreciate the comment that was made about, opening the floodgates, so to speak, of the previous approval automatically would, somewhat render this one approved. I guess I would contradict that. I think that each one needs to be looked at in its own merits. I look at this property, it's much smaller than the last one. It's surrounded. The number of guests that would be at this at any time is much greater than the last parcel as well. I do appreciate the implication of not the implication, but the desire to want the quiet. And again, just due to the adjacency of all the other properties, I think this one is much different than the last one I looked at. So I guess I would definitely like to hear my colleagues' opinion as well, but I am not in support of this one.
Joe?
Yeah, I would share those sentiments. I think that's our role here, is to distinguish between somewhat similar cases, but they're different in some key respects that I think Mike laid out. I think I was kind of alluding to that the last property that we looked at was one of the best case scenarios for something like this if it was going to come to a community, and not to say that this one is a worst case scenario, but it definitely has some problems to it. I don't know that this body can set aside some of the history and track record we've had that's comes into play to some degree. I think the connection to the wedding barn, our fear would just be that it's event driven rather than quiet rentals. But I think at its core, this is a neighborhood issue that we have to build trust back in the neighborhood. And so the applicant, I think, renting it out to a long-term renter and that going well, that's a step in the right direction. Some of the other change in the community is probably a step in the direction that some of these changes are coming, but I just don't think we're there yet. I think maybe, again, we just approved one for this neighborhood. If that goes well over the next 6 to 12 months, maybe that softens some opposition in the neighborhood. I just don't think we're there yet. So I would tend to oppose this application this time around.
Cindy?
I'm in the opposition group, and as far as down the road, if this was down the road, and then it was maybe more favorable, I would want a fence or a berm or 7 feet of trees, and that's not possible. So, I mean, a fence might be, but I agree, it's more of a feeder from probably an event barn, and I understand that's a great place to be a place if you're having a wedding down the street. I'm just not ready to approve it. It's too close to the neighbors. I wouldn't be happy if I had no screening in between and there was this situation, so I can't support it at this time.
Any other discussion?
All right, I guess with that said, I'd make a motion to deny.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and second to deny conditional use permit 25-30. Any further discussion? I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Joe?
Yes to denial.
Cindy?
Yes to denial.
Adam?
Yes to denial.
Mike?
Yes to denial.
Ryan?
Yes to denial.
Becky?
Yes to denial.
This has been denied by the Planning Commission.
Okay, on the city side, just as a reminder, the city, we always vote in the affirmative, so it's a little different than what the county does. So I would entertain a motion so we can start our discussion with this.
I'll make the motion to approve for the purposes of discussion.
Second.
All right, further discussion.
Comments and say them again if you want me to.
I'll say I'm second. I'm going to be turning this one down on our opposing this for a lot of the same factors that our fellow county said. This is 7 bedrooms or 6 bedrooms versus 3 on a smaller lot with no buffers. A lot different from the other applications. So because of those factors, that puts me in an oppose. And obviously the history is a little bit of a factor as well.
Okay, any other discussion before I call for a vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving this item, please say yes. All those opposed, please say no.
No.
Thank you. Any old business?
No.
New business?
No.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn on the county side.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, on the city side, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All right.